We moved to a new suburb at the beginning of autumn. The leaves on the trees were already starting to turn gold and bronze, and the air was filled with the freshness of cool mornings. This neighborhood seemed like an embodiment of peace. Neat houses with well-kept lawns, smiling neighbors, and silence broken only by the songs of birds. My son Mike, who had just turned 16, quickly adapted to the new place. Like a typical teenager, he was into computers, video games, and sports. Within the first weeks after the move, he found new friends. Among them were Jason, Kevin, Oliver, Zach, and Ed, all boys his age with similar interests. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, Mike told me that his friends were coming over to work on a school project. I welcomed the news with joy. I always liked when the house was filled with children's laughter and activity. When Mike's friends arrived, I met them. Jason turned out to be a tall and lanky guy with mischievous eyes. Kevin was more reserved, but very polite. Oliver seemed to be the leader of the group, always ready with new ideas. Zach was quiet and somewhat withdrawn, while Ed was cheerful and energetic. They settled in the living room and started discussing their ideas, laughing and exchanging jokes. Watching them, I felt relieved. Mike had good friends. These guys seemed intelligent, determined, and responsible. As the evening came to an end and Mike's friends left, I couldn't help but smile. I was glad we moved to this neighborhood and that my son had made such wonderful friends. Gradually, I got used to the presence of Mike's friends in our house. Their visits became an integral part of our routine. Every evening, filled with laughter and conversations, brought something new and interesting. These boys turned out to be much more versatile than I expected. One day, while I was in the kitchen cooking, I overheard Mike and his friends having an animated discussion in the living room. When I peeked in, they were surrounded by books and laptops, passionately debating about robotics. Oliver, who turned out to be very interested in the subject, was sharing his knowledge about the latest advancements in artificial intelligence. He spoke with such enthusiasm that even I, far from technology, couldn't help but get intrigued. The next day, as I passed by the living room, I heard Jason and Zach discussing space. They talked about planets, stars, and galaxies with such passion that it seemed as if they had been there themselves. Jason spoke of his dream to become an astronaut, while Zach expressed his desire to study astronomy. Their interests and knowledge amazed me. Over time, I began to join their conversations. I learned new and wonderful things, and it filled me with joy. These boys were not only curious, but also very intelligent. They set ambitious goals for themselves and weren't afraid to dream big. Every week, I saw how they developed, how their interests grew deeper. Mike's friends turned out to be not just promising, but truly remarkable boys. I felt that my son was in good company, and it brought me peace. Regular interaction with Mike's friends became a part of my daily life. Every evening, they would come over, and the house would be filled with life and energy. Their infectious laughter and endless conversations made me feel younger. One day, while I was preparing dinner, Oliver approached me and suggested trying a new recipe he found online. He was passionate about cooking and proposed hosting a cooking masterclass for everyone. The idea seemed wonderful to me, and the following week we began our culinary experiments. Every Saturday, we gathered in the kitchen and cooked something new. Jason turned out to be a baking master, and his pies were always top-notch. Kevin loved experimenting with exotic dishes, while Zach and Ed eagerly helped everyone else. Mike was also actively involved, and I could see how much he enjoyed these moments. One evening, as I bent down to retrieve something from the cabinet, I suddenly felt a gentle touch on my back. Turning around, I saw Oliver standing behind me with a slight smile. He slowly ran his hand along my back, and I froze, unsure how to react. It was unexpected, but didn't seem threatening. Rather, there was something friendly in the gesture, though I decided to be cautious. These cooking sessions not only filled our home with delicious aromas, but also brought us closer together. We laughed, discussed recipes, shared stories, and simply enjoyed each other's company. I felt young and energetic thanks to their presence. These boys brought new life into my world, and I was grateful to them for that. The understanding and support from Mike were especially valuable to me. He saw how much joy these moments brought me and always supported my ideas. We grew closer to each other, and it strengthened our bond. I was happy that my son had such wonderful friends and that I could be a part of their lives. Everything was going smoothly until one day, something happened that made me pause. We had gathered in the kitchen for another cooking masterclass, as usual. I was chopping vegetables when I heard Jason and Kevin discussing something behind my back, laughing. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, but then I heard Jason say something like, "Mrs. Lewis, you look so young. You could be one of our classmates." I felt my face flush. This remark seemed to be on the edge of flirting and inappropriateness. A few days later, during another visit from Mike's friends, I once again found myself in the spotlight. This time, as Kevin walked past me, he complimented my dress, saying it was too pretty for the kitchen. His tone made me feel uncomfortable. It wasn't just a compliment, it was something more that made me feel uneasy. But this was just the beginning. In the following days, I noticed that touches became more frequent and seemingly accidental. Oliver, who always helped me chop vegetables, now stood too close, his hand accidentally brushing against mine as we worked side by side. Jason, handing me a plate, gently touched my hand. These touches were fleeting, but left a strange feeling each time. One day, as I bent down to retrieve something from the lower cabinet, I felt a touch on my back again. Turning around, I saw Oliver standing too close, smiling slightly. "Sorry, Mrs. Lewis. I didn't mean to startle you," he said, his hand still resting on my back. I froze, unsure how to react. It was unexpected, but didn't seem threatening. Rather, there was something friendly in the gesture, though I decided to be cautious. These incidents started causing me anxiety. On the one hand, I knew that teenagers could sometimes be awkward and clumsy with their remarks. On the other hand, I couldn't ignore the fact that these words and gestures were inappropriate. I decided not to make a fuss to avoid conflicts. I didn't want to disrupt the harmony that had been established in our home. Instead, I decided to be more vigilant and watch their behavior closely. Those days were filled with doubt and anxiety for me. I constantly thought about whether I should talk to Mike or his friends about it, but I kept postponing the conversation each time. I didn't want Mike to feel awkward because of his friends, and I wasn't sure they would understand the problem. Internally, I hoped these were isolated incidents and that it wouldn't happen again. It had been a few weeks since the move, and I began to reflect on my life. I realized that my son, Mike, and his friends brought a lot of energy and new ideas into the house, making me feel younger and more alive. Mike was often busy with his projects, and friends like Jason, Kevin, Oliver, Zach, and Ed were spending more and more time at our home. One evening, when Mike was busy at work, I decided to spend the evening with his friends. I cooked dinner and invited everyone to relax and spend time together. The atmosphere was casual, and everyone felt comfortable. Feeling more relaxed and confident, I began to interact more actively with Mike's friends. Throughout the evening, I noticed that some of the young men, especially Jason and Kevin, showed particular interest in me. I felt tempted to give in to this attention, as I hadn't felt so desired in a long time. My heart beat faster, and I decided to test the boundaries. When the evening came to an end, I suggested the guys stay the night, explaining it was late and for safety reasons. They agreed, and the evening continued. The atmosphere became more intimate, and I began to act seductively, my movements becoming more fluid and gentle. I realized that my attention and flirtations were finding a response from the young men. At first, everything was innocent. Conversations, laughter. But soon the tension began to build. I felt that the situation was getting out of control but didn't want to stop. I suggested a closer contact, hoping it would remain our little secret. Jason and Kevin were initially embarrassed, but then they succumbed to the temptation. When the tension reached its peak, I moved closer to Jason, my eyes full of desire and curiosity. I gently touched his hand, and he responded with a light touch. Our eyes met, and at that moment, I felt my heart beat even faster. Kevin stood nearby, watching what was happening, and his breathing became more frequent. I suggested moving to a more private place. We went upstairs to the bedroom, where the atmosphere became even more intimate. The light was dim, creating a warm and cozy ambience. I felt my body beginning to relax, and I allowed myself to succumb to the moment. Jason and Kevin slowly approached me, and their touches became more confident and passionate. I felt their gentle, yet strong touches, awakening long-forgotten feelings in me. Jason gently kissed me, and I responded with no less desire. Kevin moved closer. His hands began to explore my body, and I felt a wave of pleasure roll down my spine. That night became a revelation for me, a night where all taboos and prohibitions were left behind. My room was filled with sounds of passion and satisfaction. I felt alive and full of energy as never before. With each minute, we became closer, creating unforgettable moments. However, with the dawn came the realization that this night should not have happened. I understood that the consequences could be serious, and I would need to deal with what happened. But despite this, I could not deny that this night became an important milestone for me, opening new horizons in my life and showing that I was still capable of experiencing strong feelings and emotions. Mike returned home earlier than expected. Hearing strange sounds, he decided to check what was happening. As he approached the bedroom door, he heard moans, and his heart sank. Mike opened the door and saw his friends with her, his mother. He was in shock and couldn't believe his eyes. He felt anger, betrayal, and deep pain. Mike, unable to hold back his emotions, shouted, "What is going on here?" His friends immediately froze, realizing they had been caught. Jason, Kevin, Oliver, Zach, and Ed began apologizing for their actions, their voices trembling. "Mike, we are so sorry. We didn't mean for this to happen." Mike, boiling with anger, responded, "How could you do this? This is unacceptable and disgusting." We all sat in the living room for an honest conversation. Mike, shaking with rage, began to speak. "Your behavior was completely unacceptable. You crossed all boundaries, and I can't just let this go. How could you betray my trust like this?" Jason tried to explain. "Mike, it was a mistake. We don't know how it happened. Kevin, his head down, added, "We understand that we acted wrongly. It won't happen again." Mike continued, "You need to understand that such behavior is unacceptable, not just because of me, but because of how you treat the people around you. It was incredibly disrespectful. I knew I had to intervene and take responsibility." I looked at Mike, trying to find the right words. "Mike, please listen to me. This was my mistake. I was the one who pushed the guys into this. I'm very sorry that it happened, and I take full responsibility for my actions." Mike, with surprise and pain in his eyes, turned to me. "What? You mean to say that you instigated them to do this?" I nodded, feeling the weight of the words press down on me. "Yes, that's right. I made a huge mistake, and I'm asking you not to hold it against them. All the blame lies with me, and I will do everything possible to make sure this never happens again." Mike sighed heavily, trying to process what he had heard. He was disappointed and confused, but understanding gradually appeared in his eyes. "It's hard for me to accept all of this, but if you're taking the blame, I'll try not to hold a grudge against the guys. But it doesn't change how I feel. I hoped that over time Mike would be able to forgive me and his friends, and that our family could get through this difficult period." After that evening, the relationships in the house became tense. Mike avoided talking to his friends, and I felt our family was on the brink of falling apart. However, over time, everyone began to realize their mistakes and work on restoring trust. Several weeks passed, and we all started making efforts to regain trust and respect. Mike's friends, such as Jason, Kevin, Oliver, Zach, and Ed, tried to show that they had changed. They came to our house, but their behavior was entirely different now. They became more respectful and responsible. I carefully monitored my own inner desires and tried to control them so as not to lead the guys into seclusion again. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary to restore trust in our family. Gradually, we began spending more time together. We had family dinners, played board games, and simply enjoyed each other's company. Mike slowly started to regain trust in his friends, seeing their sincere attempts to make amends. With each passing day, we all felt more joy from resuming our interactions. The house was once again filled with laughter and conversations. I saw Mike begin to smile and relax in the presence of his friends. He started to understand that everyone deserves a second chance. However, I remained vigilant. I did not want a repeat of past mistakes, so I closely monitored my inner desires. We all learned to value trust and respect for each other, and I hoped this would help us build stronger and healthier relationships. A few more weeks passed, and I found an old photo album hidden on a shelf in the living room. As I flipped through the pages, I felt a wave of nostalgia. These photographs reminded me of the times when I used to do photography, my old hobby that once brought me so much joy and inspiration. Kevin, one of Mike's friends, noticed my interest in the album. He approached me and started looking at the photographs with me. Kevin was impressed by my work and began asking questions about why I had stopped doing photography. I sighed and replied, "Life changed. Other worries and responsibilities came up. I just didn't find the time for it." Kevin, smiling, suggested, "Why not revive your photography career? You have a clear talent, and it could be a great way to bring joy and inspiration back into your life." His words struck a chord with me. I hadn't thought about photography in years, but the idea of reviving my old passion seemed appealing. Kevin offered to help organize photo shoots and even volunteered to be my assistant. With Kevin's support, I began to rediscover the world of photography. We organized several photo shoots with Mike's friends. They enthusiastically responded to my proposal, and our house was once again filled with fun and creative energy. The photo shoots became a way for us to bond and spend time together. We photographed in the park, by the lake, and even at home, creating beautiful and unusual images. Mike's friends enjoyed posing, and I felt my old inspiration returning. Each photo shoot brought new ideas and emotions. I felt alive and full of energy again, just like in the days when I first started doing photography. It was not just a revival of an old hobby, but a truly new chapter in my life. After rekindling my passion for photography, I decided to set up an improvised photo studio in our garage. Mike's friends and I cleaned up the garage, hung backgrounds, set up lighting, and arranged the necessary accessories. This process brought us together, and everyone contributed to creating the perfect space for creativity. The guys eagerly participated in the photo projects. They posed, helped with lighting adjustments, and even suggested their own ideas for shoots. Each day in the studio brought new emotions and joy from creating photos. I felt my confidence in my skills and abilities returning. We spent a lot of time experimenting with different looks and styles. It was an incredibly inspiring period that filled our lives with new colors. Mike and his friends enthusiastically supported me, and our improvised studio became a place where we could freely express our creative ideas. One evening, when everyone had gone home, Kevin stayed behind to help me put away the equipment. As we worked, I felt our conversation becoming more personal. We both realized that there was something more between us than just a friendly relationship. As we found ourselves in the storeroom, Kevin quietly said, "You are truly talented, Alice. You should keep pursuing photography." His words touched me, and at that moment, I couldn't resist. I led him further into the storeroom, and our kisses became more passionate. Kevin took the initiative. He stepped closer, his eyes burning with desire, and I knew we both had been waiting for this moment. He embraced me, his hands gliding over my body, and I felt my heart beat faster. Our kisses grew more intense, and our touches bolder. I yielded to him, and at that moment, nothing was more important than this secret moment we shared. We gave in to our emotions, and that moment became unforgettable for us. After creating the improvised photo studio in the garage, I realized I wanted to showcase our work to the world. This inspiration pushed me to organize a small photography exhibition at home. I worked hard on the preparation, selecting the best photos, and invited Mike's friends to help with the organization. The preparation process was intense but joyful. Mike and his friends helped me with the setup, and our exhibition gradually took shape. We hung the photos all around the house, creating a cozy and creative atmosphere. In the evening, when the exhibition was ready, we invited close friends and family to appreciate our work. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and pride for the displayed photos. Mike and his friends expressed their admiration and support, which filled me with joy and a sense of accomplishment. However, something more than just creative collaboration emerged between Zach and me. One evening, when I went to his room to discuss exhibition details, we couldn't hold back our emotions. When I entered his room to discuss the final touches of the preparation, I felt the tension in the air. I started talking about the plans for the exhibition, but noticed how Zach was looking at me. My hairpin suddenly fell out and dropped to the floor. I bent down to pick it up and found myself on my knees in front of Zach. Our gazes met, and in that moment, everything changed. While on my knees in front of him, I felt the tension between us growing. I looked into his eyes and realized he wanted it too. My hands trembled as I touched his legs and then slowly moved up his body. I saw his breath quicken, knowing we were on the brink of something uncharted. Without waiting for his reaction, I leaned in closer and kissed him, pouring all my desires and emotions into that kiss. Zach responded, and our kisses grew more passionate. We gave in to our desires, and that moment became unforgettable for both of us. At the exhibition, Zach and I exchanged glances occasionally, and Mike noticed it, but didn't give it much thought, assuming it was just work-related moments. The excitement and pride from the displayed works, along with the support and admiration from Mike and his friends, made the evening unforgettable. I felt that our hard work was rewarded, and it inspired me for new creative endeavors. After the events of the past few months, I began to re-evaluate my life. Everything that had happened, from reviving my photography career to unexpected romantic moments, made me take a deeper look at my desires and aspirations. I realized that discovering and following my desires and dreams are essential aspects of a fulfilling and satisfying life. Understanding that my desires and passions are a part of me helped me fully accept myself. It was like reclaiming a lost part of my soul that had long been forgotten. I felt joy and contentment from rediscovering what makes me happy and alive. Mike and his friends continued to support me in all my endeavors. They understood that my desires and aspirations were crucial for my well-being and happiness. Their support and understanding helped me not only return to photography, but also find new inspiration in life. Every day, I felt like I was returning to my true self. I began to dream again and make plans for the future. Restoring the lost part of myself became a source of strength and joy. I was grateful to Mike and his friends for their invaluable support and belief in me. These months became a time of renewal and re-evaluation for me. I found the strength and courage to follow my dreams and desires, and it made me truly happy. Life was once again filled with bright colors and new opportunities that I was ready to embrace with joy.